All right. So this is my first time going live, and um, I just wanted to talk a while about the importance of re-educating ourselves. So there's a lot of information that's coming out, and I think that anyone who's watching this channel, thank you so much for watching. You, one person or two people, I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful. I saw that there's a couple people in the United Kingdom, and that's exciting to me. And of course, I believe that it's really important to work locally and do what we can do and try to impact people that live near us. So, but I also know that it's going to be a slow, gradual walk to impacting the people because everyone's on their own path and not everyone is ready for what you're ready to talk about. So that's why I have this channel, because I want to talk about what I want to talk about. And if you can't handle it, and I understand that, I wish you the very best. But I want to talk about what I want to talk about. And whoever wants to hang, awesome. I think this, I don't know how long this will run, but I've got about 12 items here that I briefly want to explain what I think is been helping me get through all of this. It's from when I woke up, which was basically from 2020. Really, really hardcore woke up was, of course, during the pandemic. And when I left the Catholic Church, which I really look at as a big marker for me because I was always a Catholic, and I was probably the most religious Catholic that you would have met in your life in my age group. I have been godmother to 7 children, and I admit not a very good one in the typical sense, but I love God, and I am now, my first point, really reading the Bible and really loving reading the Bible and learning from it. So when I was a Catholic, I thought it was just one Bible. And I was like, yeah, they gave me a Bible at graduation from high school, from my public high school. And I went to the local Catholic church and they gave me a Bible. I think it's called the New American Bible. But we never opened it until in my 30s. I read about 50% of the New Testament. And I love Jesus. And that was a real religious moment for me, or biblical moment for me, or my relationship with Jesus when I moved to Colombia in 2005. And also 2004 when I went to Italy. But it was really, really important. So that's my first thing. So I'm reading Bibles. And I'm reading different Bibles. And I'm reading Bibles in Spanish and in English. I'm reading translations. I just ordered the Tyndale Bible, which is what preceded the King James Version, which I've commented on in the past. And what I've learned is my daughter's now got, I thought it was a new King James Version, but it's a new international version. And it's different. But it's nice. Like the translations are still, again, collections and arrangements of words that have helped me tremendously. And so I'm loving reading the Bibles and seeing the different versions, but my goal is to get to, which brings me to my next point, understanding what is the original language of each book. Let's put it that way. So if you know anything about the Bible, there's the King James Version and these, I think Tyndale, which I'm about to get, I'm not sure, are 66 books. And the Catholic is I think is 71, but I don't know because I think they use different versions. In any case, they're all versions, right? And I am interested in finding out if there's more books to the Bible, or is the Bible a compilation of just really, really good books that they permit us to have, the people who are in charge of printing or the people who are in charge of the internet, right? So This book is one I've mentioned as well. This is an American, and he wrote this book called Paleo Hebrew is Paleo Greek, and he refers to Joseph Yehuda, and he said that he and Joseph Yehuda is the author of the book. He's now dead, but in the 1980s, called Hebrew is Greek with a Mask On. He was a Jewish polyglot Israeli lawyer who went as a hobby to look at how Greek was a derivation of Hebrew, and he found the opposite to be true. So I've been really fascinated by that and looking into things. So I thought this book was going to be I got it on Amazon, and I thought it was going to be, all right, it's going to explain everything, and it's really funny. Look. But, so I've got to see where's the book where he's got more information. But this is really smart because he's showing each letter. It's really good. Anyway, that's something that is really helping me a lot, because the more that we investigate, the more we know, we start recognizing the little that we know, right? Or like my friend Carolyn said, and I keep repeating, I don't know what I don't know, right? And the more that I look into the world, it seems like everything's been a lie. And it's hurtful at first, but then you go, okay, it's been a lie and we got to move forward. So what my tactic has been is to investigate. I have 2 young children and I don't want to teach them lies. So I'm doing it for me and for them. And I just mentioned this beautiful woman. This is Carolyn Angel. This is her book. It just came in the mail. I'm so happy. 50 Shades of Grain. It's on Amazon, 50 Shades of Grain. And it says, I'll just read a few sentences here. Choosing to eat or not eat grains isn't so black and white. There are many shades of gray to consider when choosing which ones to avoid and what ones may be safe and healthy to consume. The information in this book may be eye-opening to some and controversial to others. The author shares that by selecting the right kind of grain products, you can actually live a longer and healthier life instead of eating the wrong ones, which can cause premature aging and many illnesses. A lot of people don't talk about this, and Carolyn is an expert on longevity, having studied the blue zone, which is where people over 100 years old in certain areas on the earth, there's a higher percentage of them living vitally, like having a really active, good life, walking upstairs in mountains and eating great food and having lovers and all that. And what I'm learning more and more about the poisons in our food is that they promote premature aging. And that's shitty. And at the end of the day, that means shortening your life, right? Okay. So what else? So in that line of thinking, I have been talking about this now for 2 years of starting my own garden. So I was in Colombia and things worked out the way they were supposed to work out, but I had plans there. So I've been researching and learning about bioculture, which has to do with the use of copper in your yard with your crops. And that copper is also a wonderful conduit for electricity and is also just good with water. And it's the kind of pipes we should have. We should have copper pipes. And if you look into Tartaria, right? Or Tartaria, look up John Levi. If you look at the channels I suggest, these guys are great. If you look at the community tab, you'll see I have been posting information. And I'm just hoping that you take a look at it and please make comments. And if it's incorrect, I'm very happy to cede to it being incorrect, but I'm doing my best to filter information for you. And I really appreciate anybody who's watching this. It's just so nice to talk about things that are important to me, and for our children, all of our children, for the future. So this is the effort of the university extension service in our county to promote the Florida-friendly landscaping guide to plant selection and landscape design. So I was a little bit overwhelmed by it. But the good news is I spoke with a woman who was maybe early 70s, fantastic. Her name was Pat. And she gave me great confidence and told me to make a bed out of a wood that has not been treated, like a bed to put to make the garden in. I've never had a garden. And to compost it. And I'm just feeling much more confident in that the county actually has seed libraries. And there is one in the county seat, and there's one also on a neighboring town where I can get heirloom seeds for local crops. So I'm psyched about that because that's been my main thing of what kind of a seed am I going to get? Because once you understand this and GMO stuff, you really want to try to get to the best seeds you can find. And if you have noted, you may have noticed that the fruits, and I'm the first one to say that I loved it, but these seedless fruits are terrible because that's basically taking away the fertility, right? And meaning that these fruits that we eat, if you save the seed, may not, if there is a seed, may not propagate, or they're really tiny or weak. Like I love these mandarin little oranges, these that we eat tons of. And we didn't have them when I was a little girl. So I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure they're GMO, but I love them. And they have just like these invisible seeds, right? So keep an eye on that because you want to eat, I believe that we need to eat foods that have had a good life, just like the cows and the chickens, that they've had a good life. And that for me, and what I've learned is that they are on grass that doesn't have any pesticides in it, that is ideally close to where you live, that has, and that they are out in the sun, eating that grass, receiving the sun rays, and they have clean water, and they have salt to lick when it's hot, which is what we always had for our horses, was the salt. And they are living the life they should live, which is salt, the sun, the earth, they're grounding, they're receiving it. And I was pointing out yesterday to my neighbor, or the day before yesterday, how the cows near my house, it was a sunny day and they were sitting in the sun and there was shade available to them within 2 feet, but they chose to sit in the sun. And I'm like, you see that? The animals love the sun. And we need to get this information out and help people know that. So this is in the line of my desire to kind of step into the homesteading space, but slowly. And I mean, not intentionally slowly, but thoughtfully. And to make the decisions that also make sense for me and that I'm really going to take care of and that could be useful in the neighborhood so that we can barter, right? So hopefully my neighbors that have cattle will sell to us a steer. And they've mentioned a couple of years ago when I first got here, I had mentioned that was my intention, and there are butchers that come, and I had no idea. They come on site and will butcher the animal and package them. And it's very important to package our food, I believe, in paper, not in plastic. So keep that in mind. And there's something called, which I have, I just put it away. So anyway, it's butcher paper. That was the next thing I was going to talk about. I've started to buy that. It's amazing. It's called, the one I'm buying is peach paper. You can get it generally in these wherever barbecue area stores, I'm sure online. But again, try to support people locally. Go to your neighborhood stores and support these businesses that are paying rent, even if it's made in China. But you want to support people locally because that's the future, and that's the only future. You don't want to eat at franchises. You don't want to support these big box stores. They're not on your side. We need to help our neighbors, and not just help. We need to start looking for trustworthy purveyors and encouraging them and telling them that you'll pay more if they have the product you want, like fresh, raw, non-pasteurized milk, is really important for our health. Okay, so I'm probably 2/3 done. But this is great. I love talking about this. So other things I'm doing as I've gone into this nutrition space, which is everything, because they're killing people with that therapeutic, they call therapeutics, that word is so appalling, injection. In any case, this is something very positive. So this is a piece of salt rock, and I got it at the salt mine that is the 10th largest salt mine on earth, that was close to my home in South America, Colombia. And if you haven't seen my little videos about salt, I just will remind you that I have a 4-step plan for longevity, which is eating pure salt. That means salt that has not been iodized. That means no iodine. That has no additives. Like in Colombia, they put fluoride, they put ferrocyanide, and they also bleach the salt. And here they bleach the salt, I believe, as well, and they iodize it. And I have seen some funky stuff lately, and looking even in health stores, it's terrible. So the labeling is everything, people. And they're changing the definition of everything. They're changing the definition, and it's true, it's everything as we speak, because people are trusting the Wikipedia, right? So nobody has an encyclopedia anymore. So what do? You go online, and you either have results from Google, and generally Wikipedia will be in the first 3 or 4, and Wikipedia's results are just people that feed the information, and it is put up there, and supposedly there's editors that look at it. But I'm sure you've come across a definition of things, and you'll see there's only one person who's commented on it, or like your friend that suddenly became like a little bit known, and then you'll see that there's a lot of information missing. That's everything on Wikipedia. So they're changing the definition of words. There's many examples, and it's terrible. And I believe that the words, that what's going on in the world is through the spells they've cast with the words. And a lot of people think this, but it took me a while to sort of really understand it in a really heavy. It didn't take me that long, because I worked in communications. I worked doing this, but it's shocking to me that it's so contrived and so basically clear that there's a code. And this has become clear to me because I am teaching my daughter to read, and she has been speaking and reading somewhat, a little bit, in Spanish, which is a phonetic language, and which, in my experience, most languages are phonetic. And what that means is the letter makes a sound that never changes, right? But that doesn't happen in English. We have words with an E on the end that is silent, and we have words with a K in the front that is silent. And there's a lot of, it seems to me, being a person that's bilingual and having paid a lot of attention to English and Spanish, but it took me a long time to realize this. I basically now teaching my daughter to read, how frustrating it must be that these words don't make sense. They don't stick with the code. There's all these exceptions, right? Again, no and no, or there, and there. Like, no, it shouldn't be like that. It's a new language. It's one of the newest languages. So And then when you learn about the Bible and you learn about the Tyndale and then Francis Bacon, and where are those early? I want to see the earliest. I want to see the Greek, and I want to see the Aramaic, and that's for maybe when I'm like 120, I'll really get hardcore into it. I want to live to 150. That's why I have this channel. I just want to record this information and for my daughters, hopefully if someone watches that, if you are watching this, I really appreciate you. And I hope that there's one thing I say here that maybe inspires you to do something a little bit different, because it's really important to do new things all the time. And it expands your brain. Like, don't take the same way to work. Don't take the same way home from work. Don't always go to the same store. Go a little bit farther. Really try to look the person in the eye that you're talking to at the store. Really, really try to do your best to live in the moment, because that's all you got. There's no tomorrow. There's no yesterday. There's just right now. Right now. And this is kind of cool that I'm on a live talking to myself, but it's I need to have these experiences. I'm in a big transition moment in my life, and again, I appreciate anybody who's watching this, because I'm honored that there's a connection between us at some level. So with the salt, I started investigating its power as an electrolyte, and I worked with this wonderful man who is an electrician, handyman, who can fix anything, which I have the greatest esteem for handymen. I didn't mean that I mean it in the best way. And we worked together. I paid him to sit with me, and we talk about it. It was just so enjoyable to talk about a lot of different things and a lot of these ideas. Like I have replaced Victor with the channel, and we talk about all these things. And since he had experiential and empirical information from what he's done in his work and fixed electricity and so forth, and knows water, etc. So we did a salt rock water experiment, and we were able to get bubbles, and which was great. And so I believe that salt is an electrolyte, and then that got me into creating my little theory of the 4 steps. And now that's what brought me to Tesla, which everybody loves him, and of course you should. But I have started to consider more and more the theory that a lot of the figures in history never existed, and perhaps were created. And these guys, if you've looked at the links that I'm posting, you know who I'm talking about maybe. But this group of people, they love to make up they love to have both sides of the struggle in their pocket. And maybe both sides don't know it. So maybe Tesla really was Edison and Tesla. But this book is called Nikola Tesla, My Inventions and Other Writings. Let me just give you a brief example. Introduction by Samantha Hunt. So, okay, one says, oh, wow, you wrote a biography, or autobiography. But no, it took me a while to research and find. And, okay, I started this last year. But he wrote in a magazine, like a weekly magazine or a monthly magazine, and evidently he had some writings about his inventions, and this is supposedly what he wrote in that magazine, and some other writings. But there's something that doesn't ring true. My grandmother was from Croatia, and I've learned a lot about that region, and I don't know. I just think some of the comments, like in the people that he encounters, seem to be these other figures like Mark Twain and then Thomas Edison, and then I'm not sure, but maybe J.P. Morgan. Like, he meets all these people, and he makes a point of saying, well, what a distinguished gentleman he was, you know? And it's just like, I don't know. And I know that's but I feel that I think it's Proverbs 31. You're going to hear me say it a lot, but there's nothing new under the sun. So maybe this electricity, which brings me to why I am studying. Okay, so I got this book, basically Electricity. It was $20. Had, the best reviews. It's from the Navy. Here it is. The Research and Education Association, but something that related to the Navy. Okay, there's some basic stuff in here, but then it gets pretty, like, it's not so basic. Not from what I learned from my friend who was a handyman and who fixes things. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here, which I'm going to challenge myself to go through. But when I worked with Victor, I had gotten a 16-page PDF. You can probably find it, that I just looked up Siemens. Well, I looked up basic electricity, and there was a 16-page PDF that Siemens gave their new executives or whatever to understand. And it was really interesting because it was electron theory, and I just now don't believe in electron theory from what I experienced with Victor and the questions I asked him and what we did. And I didn't see, and I don't understand why, they're talking about neutrons, protons, electrons, and when it can just be charge and neutral, or not charged, or a continuum of reactivity. So that took me into, so those were those two. I found this at a used bookstore, and I just had to pick it up. Mechanical drawing for high schools. It's so nice. It has clear drawings, and in the problems, like when you're learning how to draw mechanically, are basically in words what should be. Like, you have to draw what is stated in words, and so it's I think a really great book for learning how to express visual ideas. And I've never read anything like that, but I have worked in design with, pretty much had a graphic designer working for me for a period of at least 10 years. So this is really interesting. And then I was at the health food store. Okay, so this is like such a scam. I know it's going to take me a while, but God keeps giving me more and more signs that I'm on the right path, that iodine is a big old hoax. So they gave me this free, and it's called Iodine in Your Thyroid. And I had a thyroid issue. I believe that. I got iodized salt. And then I started reading this book, which is, it's great. This guy was a Navy SEAL, and it's called The Rugged Life. And he gives, I think, just really good drawings and explains from farming to doing your own electricity to building a house to cutting hair. It's a really neat book. But he will kind of fall back on plastic stuff, which I just don't think we should be using plastic. I mentioned it, I think, on one of my conversation starter videos, that it's taken away the noble work of men and women, this plastic, which takes me to electrostatic, that word. I'm probably wrong, but I keep looking to see, and I think that I learned this originally from Peter and Pete, which have this amazing channel. They're amazing. But that electrostatic doesn't exist unless there's an artificial element. which would be plastic. It's like, say that in the natural environment, electrostatic doesn't exist. So when you see that fuzz and all that, that's with a balloon, right? So I keep kind of asking on different channels and no one's answered. So I think that Peter and Peter Wright, and that's like expanded my mind tremendously because people toss that word around all over the place. And so then that I was like, okay, well, that's electrostatic. Let me learn about electromagnetic. And that's where I put a little poll in my in the chat about, like, do you think that volcanoes are man-made? And a great response. Thank you so much, Cat One, because I think that's your name, Cat One. It's so cool. We please look at the comments there because I can't remember right now, but it was explaining that basically the form of a dump has like a light on the top that can, it sounds to me, and the name itself was like fire top or something, that replicates what a volcano is in our minds. And I was looking at volcano in the Bible, and it's not there. And so are volcanoes man-made? And if they are, does that have anything to do with magnetism? And probably not. That has some other chemical reactions going on. But magma, I'm gonna get it together, and I'm gonna do more live because now that I know that I can put the screen in as I'm talking, that'll be a lot more interesting. And again, I am reading this book right now as well. I'm taking all these books with me tomorrow. We're hitting the road, me and the girls. But this is very important. Please, please, please get a copy or listen to interviews about it that are free, and get people to understand that virology is a scam. Virology is a scam. It's lies. They've tricked us with everything. It's so awful, but we've got to hold each other's hands as we go through this. I've been through my process in the last 4 years, and I think that this is what God wants us to do, is to let other people know, like, look, we were all duped. And that's why these are the things I'm doing. I'm researching now because at least it's an effort to unravel it. And I don't have any interest in being vengeful or putting people in jail or, pointing a finger at precisely someone, because that's just like that for me, that's not gonna do much, because I think that most people are good and they don't know, and there's just a few people that are running the show. So that's the responsibility of the rest of us to gracefully, if you can, because it's hard, especially with loved ones that you've been in. Like, I'm sure there's people who are watching this that know people that have been in our family that have made fun of us and not believed us, and it's 4 years now and they still are like that. So I think that being emotional is appropriate, and I do have a good level of pure salt in me, which means that my electrical current is flowing, and I'm grounding daily. I walk daily on the earth, minimum 10 minutes, sometimes about an hour with all the walking I do. I do look at the sun probably 5 days a week, couple of those days about 8 minutes, but I do love it, and I miss it when I don't. I'm not recommending this to anyone. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. And here's the two most challenging things, but I think the most rewarding that you immediately see in your life is not lying. You lose friends because people lie a lot. And not lying for me implies like if I'm getting like bad vibes from people as I'm talking to them, I'm like, bye. I'm not going to waste my energy because I'm fine. I got all these books to read. I've got a lot to do. I want to write in my book ideas that I can leave. So when my kids, and when whatever, at some point they can see what I was writing and thinking about, because I write as if it's towards them or to someone who has an open mind about ideas. But I feel very good right now in learning that that's a priority, is that just not lying. And that means for me, not lying to myself if my emotion, the emotion that I'm feeling is telling me get up and leave because they don't want you here. So I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And then the second thing is that's sort of in line with it is not feeling pressured by time. Like right now, no one's as I'm recording right now, no one is watching, and I don't care. I'm just happy to talk. And I still feel rushed. So that tells me that I'm still learning to deal with my management of time and its concept, because the more I think about it, the more I know that they control us by rushing us and by us thinking by this age I should have this, or by in this amount of time I should have understood that and I should have done this, right? It's like this constant pressure, and that's time, right? And then everything's based on time, and the insurance policies are based on time, and your earnings are based on time, and your earnings are numerical as opposed to spiritual or environmental, right? And so I think I'm going to end with that point, the environmental, meaning that these chemtrails need to be talked about. Chemical trails over your head. You got to talk about them. I hope there's nothing, but I think it's important that wherever you're living, you go to your community council, you go to your city meetings, and you go to your county board meetings, and you ask, where can I go to find out? That's what I just did. I don't have any information yet, but I feel good that I made a step, and I spoke and I asked to the 5 people that are in charge of $2.5 billion for a county. I asked them, can you tell me what is being sprayed over our heads and over our land, and what's going onto my children's bodies from the air? What is that? And then also how do we test our water with $2.5 billion? Like, we can't have the water tested for poisons, please, or can we get like a filter? I don't know. There's a lot there, right? So I'm using as an example what I think pretty much anyone in the 8 countries where fluoride is still added to water in the municipalities, or if there's any industry that possibly could be poisoning your well water, I think it's important to ask about it. And it doesn't mean that you have to put anybody in any uncomfortable situation. Just we've got to move forward, and moving forward is asking questions and really keep asking until you get the answer you need, because again, they want to prematurely age us or kill us. And I think that we can live to 150 years old if we start eliminating these toxins and poisons from our life. Thank you for listening and watching, and please leave comments and tell me what you think, and let's talk. And I'm not offended. I'm really not. You can tell me whatever, and I would be love to engage. Thank you.